first time, I'm Jen. I'm a Teacher Success Associate at CC. I am a former high school teacher. I taught for 7 years, different departments. I taught half the time in special education, half my time in gen ed, but throughout the whole time, I was still teaching special ed. I had inclusion classes even when I was a gen ed teacher. I also taught classes specifically for English language learners. I've done co-teaching, pull-out classes, inclusion, all of those different things while I was teaching. I didn't have CC, unfortunately. When I was teaching, I was using Google Slides and paper plan books, and I had a million sticky notes everywhere. So this would have been something very helpful for me if I would have had this. I am a forever dog mom. My dog Winry, she's my baby. I did add a new photo this week for those of you that have been here. We recently took a real short like a week long, actually, 5 days vacation to some state parks in Michigan. So I got a few pictures there. But she's not real happy about it being the summer. She actually really loves the winter. Okay, so just a few things to know. The session is being recorded because I will upload this to YouTube. I'll present for approximately 30 minutes, followed by a 15-minute Q&A session where you are welcome to ask questions about anything I've talked about in the session, or if you have other questions about how to use your planner, you can go ahead and ask them as well. Please type your questions or comments during the first 30 minutes in the chat. I will try to remember to periodically look at those. Sometimes I forget, but I will get to those at least by the end and answer those questions for you. Again, if there is something that I miss in the chat, or maybe there's something I just don't explain very well, please send us a message at support@commoncurriculum.com, and we will get back to you if you have more questions or if you want something explained again. So make sure you send those messages if you're having any trouble or have any questions. So by the end of today's session, you'll know how to find the standards you need and add them to your lessons. You'll know how to add standards to units, compare multiple sets, and to search for standards, and you'll know how to use the standards tracker within CC. Okay, so I am heading on over to, I'm actually in a different plan book today. The plan book that I'm in this is from a middle school English language arts teacher. So this is a plan book from an actual teacher. So these are lessons that she built and that she actually taught. I might switch back into mine, but I'm trying to use this one today just to give you guys a look at a different one. But first, what I want to do is go over the standards card within your lessons. So within your lessons, when you set up your template, you can have a standards card in your template. So the standards card is there in all of your lessons automatically. So then when you go to build your lessons, you just have to add in your standards. So again, what I'm talking about, maybe if you didn't attend the template session, if you do have questions about templates, make sure you go watch that video on our YouTube channel. But here's my templates, or this teacher's templates. So if I click on this period, she's got her standards card added there. So it is automatically in all of her lessons because she has a standards card in her lesson. If you don't want the standards card, you can delete it if you want to. You can also move the standards card around wherever you want. If you want it listed first thing, if you want it listed last, wherever you can move it around. Hit done there, get out of here. Okay, so she has her standards card. And what you want to do to add standards to your lessons is you click this search and add standards button right here. So you want to click that, and then it will pull open. Let me get rid of that for now. So it will open up the standards that this teacher is using. So when you first set up your plan book, when you go to your classes and you search for the standard set that you need, and you'll pull up your standards. The next time you open up that class to add standards, it will automatically open up to that set of standards. So let me show you what I mean. I'm going to reset this. I'm going to click change. So first, what you do if you haven't went to a standard set yet, first you have to it's going to show this. So states, organizations, schools, and districts. So I think for most of you, at least what I've seen, you're pulling from states. So like for me, I'm in Iowa. I taught in Iowa. I would go find Iowa. There's also different organizations with standard sets. Maybe your school's using the Common Core state standard still. Maybe you have AP or College Board standard sets that you need to use. You can find that organization there. So anything that's an organization with standards, like here's American Dental Association, there's some classes that uses standards from them. That's where you can find those under organizations. There's also schools and districts. So sometimes we have specific like schools who have an entire school account and all of their teachers have CC, and they might have a particular standard set that is unique to their school. We can upload standard sets that way too. But for most people, you're going to find your state. So this teacher, she taught in Florida. So I'm going to go find Florida, select Florida, and then select the standard set you need for the class that you're in. And I'm going to select English Language Arts, and then select the grade level, which she was teaching 7th grade. So I'm going to select 7th grade. And so now here is all of my English Language Arts grade 7 standards. So now that I've selected this and I found the standard set that I need, the next time I go to add a standard for this class, it's going to automatically pull up this set. I don't have to go back through and search again for my state and my grade level and the course that I need. It's just going to automatically show up like this. Okay, so let's say these are my standards and I want to add in standards that have to do with writing. I want to see any standard that has writing in it. You can search keywords. I'm going to search for writing. And then all of those standards that have that keyword writing in it are going to pop up. So let's say that I'm going to have a poetry unit and I want to find all the standards that have the word poem in it. I can search that and those standards will pop up for me. And then, so if I am teaching a poetry unit and I see I want to use this one and I want to use this one, these are the two standards that I'm going to have in that lesson. All I have to do is just select that plus over on the left. It turns into a check mark. And then I close and return to lesson and my standards are right there. Let's say I accidentally added one in that I don't actually want. I can delete it if I want to. And then my standards are there. I'm going to go back to search and add standards. And just to show you, it's automatically right back where I was. I don't have to go back and search through things. And you can select as many as you want. So if you want to select 20 different standards, you can. I don't know who would be teaching 20 different standards in one lesson, but it's up to you. You can select one standard, you can select 30 standards. Okay, let's say that you want to compare two different sets, or maybe you're pulling two different standards from different sets. Maybe you have different grade levels in your class, or maybe you have English language learners in your class and you need to have those standards as well as the English language arts standards, or maybe you have like special education students, maybe you're pulling a different set from them. Whatever the reason is, there might be a reason why you need different sets. I also know that when I was teaching US history, a lot of the standards were like reading and writing based. So maybe I might want to compare those standards to what they're learning in English class, just so I can see like, hey, what's the same things that we're covering? Maybe there's certain verbiage or however I want to say things. Maybe I want to make sure it matches. So I want to see what the standards are in English because we're both writing papers. So that might be a reason why you might want to compare. But how I do that is over here, there's this side-by-side view. Click to compare standards. I'm going to click this and then it opens up another one. So I'm going to click on states. This teacher is in Florida, so I'm going to go to Florida again. And I'm going to pull up English Language Arts. And let's say the reason I want to compare standards right now is because I want to see what they did in grade 6. So I am teaching grade 7, but I want to see what they did in grade 6. I know I'm going to be teaching a poetry unit. So I'm going to pull up poetry because I want to see what they did last year. This could be a reason why you want to compare. So I'm seeing what they did last year, and then I'm going to put in what I need for grade 7. Let's say I want to pull up more than 2 to compare, you can do that. Maybe you want to compare and see what they did in 5th and 6th grade, or maybe you want to see what they're going to be doing next year to make sure that you are covering everything that you're supposed to cover so they're prepared for the next year. I know that a lot of times when I was teaching, we talked about this a lot because I taught 9th grade and we always wondered, like, what are they doing in 8th grade? Like, it would be awesome if we had time to meet with those teachers and we could talk to them. Oh, this is how you talked about writing a research paper. Or this is what you learned about the pre-Civil War. So when they come to 9th grade, we can get right on with the Civil War because they already know the things that happened in the antebellum era. So I think we all know we have all of these dreams as teachers of the time that we could use and what we could do with it. But a lot of times it just doesn't happen. This is one way where you could at least see the standards that they covered if you don't have time to actually meet with those teachers. So let's say I do want to go to Florida. So let's say that I wanted to pull up English language development. And then I could pull those up. There might not be any in there. Let me see if there's some in the other one. No. Okay, I'll have to check on that. I'm also in charge of the standards. So that actually brings my attention to something. So how we get all these standards is we make sure that everything is updated by the states, but I also rely on you guys, like if something is missing, to let me know if there's a standard set that is not up to date or if there is standards that you need that it's missing, because we want you to have your standards in here. This is one of the really great things about CC is that you can automatically put your standards in. So if they're not there, that's not going to help you. So make sure that you let us know if there's a standard set that's not in there, which I'll show you how to do that here in a minute. Okay, so that is how you compare different standard sets. You can select from different sets, and then if you close and return to lesson, they're going to be within that lesson. Okay, they are available to you in Florida, those English language development. Okay, for some reason, it's just not showing up for me. I probably need to refresh my screen or something like that, but that's good. Okay. Okay, so let me make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay, back to the standards card. So if you want to copy and paste standards, you can. So all of these standards right here that I just added in, I don't have to go back and do that for every single card. I can copy this whole standards card if I want to. So I can click the copy, go over to this card, and I can paste it. If there are individual standards over here that I want to add to this lesson, I can just go to the individual standard and I can press copy. Maybe I want to add it to this lesson, so I can go over here and then I can click paste and then it's right there. So it's really easy to copy the whole standards card and add it to your lessons, or individual standards and add them to your lessons. Okay, so another thing I want to show you is if I click on search and add standards, I'm going to get out of these 3 different ones. I'm going to go to change. Okay. There's this big button right here at the bottom of when you're adding standards. It says, didn't find what you're looking for. We can add your standards for you. So if we are missing standards, you can click on this button. And it's going to take you to this form. So you fill out this form, and this form goes to me, and then I will check over to see if, just to make sure, double check that we don't have those, and then getting through the process to get those uploaded for you. So what you want to do is fill this out, you submit it, it comes to me. One thing to note, so the standards that we add are for state standards, or if there's standards from some like really big national organization, we will also add those in. And if there is standards for school districts or schools that have CC accounts, we add those standards for you. If you are just part of the school and your school has a set of standards that's unique to your school, but it's not state standards, and you don't have a school-wide CC account, then you can actually add those in yourself. You can just copy in all of those standards, and then we will just get that approved for you. And how you do that is commonstandardsproject.com, and you can upload the standards you need, and then I'll just check those over and get those approved. All right. Okay. All right, I want to show you how to add a unit, or how to add standards using the unit timeline. So you have your unit timeline here. And if you have questions about how to use the unit timeline, I do have that session uploaded to YouTube, so you might want to go check that out. But this teacher has their units here. So if I click on her theme unit, and I can view the unit in the sidebar. So here is the planning that she did for theme unit. And she didn't add in any standards for the unit, but you could. Like if you know these are the 10 standards that I'm going to hit on for this unit, you can add those in. So you can just start adding in all of the standards that you know you are going to use for this unit. So I'm just going to select all the ones I know I'm going to use. Close out of this, and then they're all right there in your unit plan. So then when I go back to my lessons, I can pull up an individual lesson and I can open up the unit. And then here's all those standards I just put in the unit. And then when I'm planning my individual lessons, I can use this unit plan to copy over the standards that I'm going to be using in that particular lesson. Okay, I do have a question here. Okay, yep, so the YouTube channel with all of these webinars is going to be under Common Curriculum. So if you go to YouTube and search Common Curriculum, it should pop right up, and then you could get subscribed to the channel. Okay, so I can close out of this. Also, if I go to my week view and I pull up, let's say I'm on Thursday, September 8th, and I'm planning this lesson, I can pull up my theme unit, and there that unit is again with all of my standards. So I can add those in as I am planning my lessons. All of the standards I know I'm going to use for the unit are right there, and I can just add them in. Okay, other things I want to show you is how to use the standards tracker. So the standards tracker button is right here. You want to click on standards tracker. And what you see is you have like 3 different menus over here. So you have all of your courses. You have all of the sets that you use within that course. You can also filter standards. So I'll show you how to use that in a second. So I'm going to unselect those. So this is what it looks like. And let's say that I want to see how many standards and the standards that I'm using for my period 6. So I click on period 6. This is the standard set I want to look at. And over here, it outlines how many times I've used that standard. So this standard right here, analyze the impact of setting on character development and plot in a literary text. So this teacher taught this standard in 22 lessons, and these are all of the lessons that the standard is present in. So if I want to pull one of these up, all I have to do is click on it. So let's say I want to go look at the lesson that I taught on April 5th with that standard. I can click on it and it will bring me to that lesson. And then if you scroll down, you'll see all of those standards and you'll see how many times and when this teacher taught that standard. And then if you want to filter your standards, you can hide the standards that have been covered. You just click that. So let me show you that again. So here's all of the standards, the grade 7 English language arts standard. There's all of them listed here, and then when they are taught and how many times. If I only want to see the standards that haven't been covered, I click that filter standards, and now it shows me all the standards that are not present in the plan book. So this is something I do want to make sure that you know. How the standards tracker works is it tracks all of the standards that are present in the plan book. So if you are in August, it's at the beginning of the school year, but you've planned out your lessons August through December. You're like way ahead of it. You're way ahead of the game and you've got August through December planned. You've got your standards in there. The standards tracker is going to show you all of those standards. So it shows you, it tracks the standards that are present in your plan book, whether those standards are in July or January or October or whenever. It's going to show you if those are in your plan book or not, and when they're in your plan book for the lessons. So a good way to use this is, let's say you're getting halfway through the year and you're still planning your lessons. You can pull up and see which standards you haven't taught. This might help because you're like, hey, I got to get these done. I have to make sure that I put these into my lessons and make sure I'm teaching these for the rest of the year because I haven't got to these yet. All right, so there's that class. You can pull up your different classes, pull up the different sets. You can do more than one at a time. So let's say you, for some reason, you want to track the standards for all of your classes. You can do that if you want to. I'm going to pull up periods 1 and 4, and I'm going to show you the tracker menu. So you have the option to link to the standard. So maybe you have an admin and they're asking, hey, what standards have you taught? What standards haven't you taught yet? You can send them a link. So you have a link to this page. So you'll copy the URL and then you can send that to them and it will bring them to this standards report. So they can look and see what standards you've taught and what standards you haven't taught. You can also print or download. So I can print this or download. I'm going to go to download just to show you what it looks like. My internet's being just a tad bit slow. Okay, so I have my download here. I'm going to pull this up. And then it's called the Standards Coverage Report. And so then you can print this or send this to someone if you don't want to use the link. And it will show them what standards you've taught and what standards you haven't taught. Or it's whatever report you have pulled up here, that's what it's going to print. So like, for example, this one is all the ones that have not been covered. Say I want to get rid of that. And if you want to print a report for all of them that have been covered for period 6, you can pull that up and then it will show you where those, how many times that standard's been used and in what lessons. And then you can link or print or download that report. Okay, so it is 11:29. Those are all of the different things that you can do with standards within CC. I'm going to open it up to questions. So is there anything that didn't make sense or something you would like me to talk about again? Feel free to ask those questions. You go ahead and type them in the chat. And then I will work on getting those answered. I think I do have one. Okay, so someone's asking just to show again how to add the standards to the unit plan. Yep, so I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so I'm gonna go to, you can pull up a different plan book. We'll go to this one. Okay, here's just an example of another plan book. But let's say I go to this unit timeline here. So I can pull up the unit timeline and then find a unit. Okay, so this teacher had a math unit. So I'm going to open that up. I'm going to show the full unit in the sidebar. And then here is the unit plan. So then here, this is where I can start to add in all of the standards. So I don't know what state this teacher was in, but I'm just going to choose Connecticut. And I'm going to choose their math standards. This person was elementary, so we'll choose grade 2. And then I can start adding in all of the standards that I want to use for this unit. Select all the ones I know I'm going to use. And then I can close out of it. And then all of those standards are present within my unit plan. And then again, just to show you how I can use this, as I can close out of this, I can select lessons, individual lessons to work on within that unit. And then all I have to do is click the unit. And now I can plan using the unit plan to do my individual lessons. You can also do this if you are in your week view. And then on your individual lesson, it'll have that unit. I forget, where was that unit? Let's see, October 6th. We'll go to that week. Okay, so here's that lesson for that class. And here's the unit. So I can click on the unit. So it has my lesson and my unit. And now I can pull things over to my lesson. So I can copy this one and I can add it over here. I can copy this one and then add it over here. And then I can use that to plan out my standards. Okay, so someone's asking about where to upload the standards themselves. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Oh. Okay. Okay, so if you go to, it's the, I'm going to go to home. It's the Common Standards Project. So if you go to commonstandardsproject.com, there's a create and edit standards. So you can click this button here. And then if you click get started, you can upload your own standard. So I'm going to click this. And then it's having me log in because I am an admin here. But for you, it might look a little bit different, but you'll have, these are like all the standards I've uploaded myself. So you can click create standards. And then once it loads, computer's just being a little bit slow. Again, I'm not sure I think it looks like the same on your end, but let's say I pulled up Iowa and then you fill this out. So just your name, your email, your organization or your school district or the state. And then you just fill this out for the standard set. And then you add in the standards and then you can submit this. And then I will look it over and just make sure it's all good to go, make sure everything is inputted correctly, and then I'll approve those. Sometimes I might have some questions for you and I'll just send those questions to you and you can just answer them and then we can get those approved. So it's commonstandardsproject.com. Okay, anyone have any other questions? Okay, so the question is, if I import prior year's lessons, will the standards report reflect standards I may not have taught in the current year? So whatever lessons that you have in your plan book, whatever standards are in those lessons, whether they are created new or whether you have imported them from a different plan book, whatever standards are in your plan book are going to be reflected in your standards tracker. So if you are teaching this year and you're importing lessons from last year, and all of those lessons have standards in them. Once you import them to your new plan book, that's going to be reflected in your standards tracker.